Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idol, and of course, the Mary Sue is just absolutely at it again. So much so that even the bird brain here, if you hear him, is freaking out about it. Do you know what the Mary Sue has done this time, Hondo? Can you believe what they have done this time? Well, they have thrown a fit about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, as well as Johnny Depp's lawyer. I thought this stuff was over. I thought we were past the Johnny Depp, Amber Heard stuff, but here we have an article. Really, NBC? Recruiting the face of Johnny Depp's legal team? Yeah, so NBC, if you hadn't heard, hired Johnny Depp's attorney for something or another. I'm sure this article will get into it, but I believe to be the face of legal for NBC. I could be wrong. Maybe the article will correct me. And, of course, the Mary Sue, who was staunchly pro-Amber Heard. How any website could consider themselves to have journalistic integrity and be on Amber Heard's side is mind-blowing to me, but we'll go through here and find out. NBC has decided to hire Johnny Depp's lawyer, Camille Vasquez, as a legal analyst, a decision that hasn't sat well with her own staff, given NBC's own reporting of the Johnny Depp vs. Amber Heard trial and the fact that the company is undergoing layoffs. It is understandable that the staff would have concerns about her hiring. There is also the fact that their decision to hire her is likely partially because her representation of Depp made her an internet sensation. Well, I mean, yeah, the lady brought the smackdown on Amber Heard, is, gorgeous looking, especially in positions of power. I mean, she drove the internet by storm, and yeah, that's going to be good for cable TV, which is dying. They need, fresh hip faces to bring in and maybe get some eyes on their dying networks to keep them relevant. So it makes complete and perfect sense. Yes, I get it, they're going through layoffs, but they're not going to lay off somebody that, if everything is done right, is bringing more eyes to their station, to their channel, to their newsroom and segments. So this makes perfect sense. Now, if she doesn't do that, if people are like, yeah, whatever, I still don't care about cable news, I'll use YouTube or the internet or any sort of alternative media sources, well, yeah, this isn't going to do anything. But this might catch a few eyes, at least in the beginning, because people are going to want to see what she's like, on a cable news network. But let's continue. TikTok users made Vasquez go viral as they fawned over her and praised her for representing Depp in his defamation case against Heard. Much of the praise surrounding her had little to do with the actual quality of her defense work. Here we go. The Mary Sue, you're attacking another woman. How dare you? I thought that was against the rules, it should be for all women. And more to do with the fact that she was representing a powerful man against an alleged victim of abuse. At least they used alleged. I'll give them credit. At least they used alleged and instead of, just calling her a victim of abuse. Depp's rabid fans, who led a smear campaign against Heard. Okay, never mind. The respect that you had garnered for but a mere moment, Mary Sue, has already been turned to dust in the wind because a smear campaign? Heard did that to herself. The moment all the lies came to light, that was done to herself. A smear campaign is when you make stuff up or go after somebody that otherwise had a clean record, or at least a mostly clean record, to find things to smear them. That's not the case here. Even the makeup company that Amber Heard used, smeared her. Well, I wouldn't say smeared her, because again, it wasn't a smear campaign, but called her out for lying. Did they smear her, or did they just tell the truth? Anyway, Depp's rabid fanbase led a smear campaign against Heard, and tarnished the hashtag #MeToo movement with their hatred and spread of misinformation. Spread of misinformation. Really? How many lies was Amber Heard caught in? How many? I can't even count them. So many lies. Even Johnny Depp's exes were coming out to take his side with his defense, whereas Amber Heard's ex was also a victim of abuse by Amber Heard. So tell me where the misinformation was coming from. How can you still defend this woman? It is an absolute joke. And in doing so, you are dragging down another woman, a woman in a position of power who had to work hard to get there in what you would call a patriarchal society. She worked hard, she put in that grind, and now she's doing great things with her life. She's going to be on NBC as a legal analyst, the company that tried dragging her and tried smearing her, but at the end of the day, she comes out on top, and now they're begging her to work for them. Dude, that is a female empowerment win. How can you not report on it as anything such? Quickly latched onto Vasquez and hailed her as a hero. Fans were so blindly enamored by her trial that when false rumors spread alleging that the married lawyer was in an unethical relationship with Depp, fans actually gleefully supported the idea and even shipped the pair on TikTok. Look, shipping is a thing that has been going on in fandom, like, as long as I've been in fandom, and that's been a long time. I mean, you had Naruto Sakura, or you've got, gay ships for, things like in My Hero Academia, like, Bakugo and Todoroki. I don't really know. This is not really my area of expertise. The point is, shipping is always done in jest as fun and jokes. Yeah, I'm sure there were people out there that were uneducated and didn't realize Vasquez was married or anything to that effect that, would have found it cool if the two got together. But who cares? That doesn't change any of the facts of what happened at this trial, which is Heard lied, Vasquez, verbally beat her to death, and it was beautiful to see, and it was an absolute win. You could call this a win for female empowerment, because here we have a female lawyer getting recognition she deserves. Criminal defense attorney Rebecca Kavanaugh wrote an interesting Twitter thread questioning Vasquez's professionalism and why the lawyer got away with laughing, smirking, and interrupting her and witnesses during the trial. Of course, any criticism of Vasquez has been pushed under the rug, including the fact that she signed on to represent Kanye West immediately after Depp before dropping him as an anti-Semitism sparked outrage. Well, what's the big deal there? I mean, I thought anti-Semitism was bad. If she wants to drop a client, she can. I assume that she has a clause in her contract, if a contract was even signed, stating it can be terminated for any reason. Maybe that's part of the issue. Maybe she's like, oh, shoot, anti-Semitism? Nah, sorry, bro, not defending that. That breaches contract. If one was even drawn up. So, after the Depp versus Heard trial, she was promoted to a partner at the law firm she worked for, Brown Rudnick, and is now moving up as a legal analyst at NBC. What NBC staff thinks of Vasquez's recruitment. One reason why Vasquez's role at NBC has raised eyebrows is that her hiring seems to go against the company's own reporting of the Depp vs. Heard trial. Part of NBC's coverage on the trial included releasing a documentary titled A Marriage on Trial, Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, and the Truth in the Age of Social Media. The documentary examined the social media frenzy that the case sparked and the vast spread of misinformation on social media, the influence of social media in the case, and what serious connotations the case could have for future domestic abuse cases. One NBC reporter, Kat Tinbarge, also covered the case and tried to expose social media misinformation and harassment. And failed if she... So here's the thing. NBC, I assume. I will not pretend to be an expert and know, because, well, I don't care about legacy media. Legacy media is biased and garbage, just like the Mary Sue, just like the Daily Wire. You want to find independent news sources, and they're very rare to find. NBC very often has a left-leaning bias, and the left-leaning bias was the side that was siding with Amber Heard. So Kat Tinbarge was, I assume, trying to find pro-Amber Heard material, and couldn't get any that was true. And therefore, that's why I said tried to expose social media misinformation and harassment. Tried and failed because there was nothing to expose because Amber Heard was in the wrong. Here's a tweet from her. During the trial, viral posts about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard were almost all in favor of Depp, but things are starting to shift. I want to break down some of the ways individuals were able to fight back against the misinformation and harassment campaign. So this is someone who had their mind made up. They're supposed to be a reporter, a journalist, but here's someone who has their mind made up considering they didn't know the facts. None of us did, because the trial was still ongoing. That's not how, again, that is not journalistic integrity. Her reporting caused her to suffer the unprecedented vitriol of Depp's fans, who quickly set up a petition to try and get her fired for NBC for daring to examine the case without being noticeably biased in favor of Depp. No, it's because she was, again, this is my assumption, noticeably biased in favor of Amber Heard. If you are going to be a reporter, you need to be a down-the-middle reporter. Right here, what Mary Sue is doing is saying, oh, because she wasn't pro-Depp, people tried to get her fired. No. People don't want reporting that is pro one side or the other. They want reporting that is pro-truth. And so much information had come out that it was very obvious where the clues were leading us. So to see people go off on crusades in the other direction when no evidence led that way, people aren't stupid. They can see through that. Now, after NBC received the wrath of bullying of Depp's fans, and after one reporter was the victim of online bullies trying to discredit her as a journalist, because she should be discredited as a journalist, she was following the breadcrumbs intentionally in a biased manner down the wrong direction. Again, I assume. NBC has gone and hired Depp's lawyer as a legal analyst. Unsurprisingly, it's been reported that her hiring has not sat well with the staff. It has reportedly caused murmurings in the newsroom and sparked at least one written complaint to management from a journalist concerned by Vasquez's hiring. The journalist report... See, why? Why? Her job is as a legal analyst. Who cares what the journalist is reporting on? If her job is to be a legal analyst, then she just needs to do that. If a story comes up, if the journalist brings you a story, said, here's the story, has to do with law, and she's a lawyer and she's the legal analyst, she just gives her assessment. Who cares what the journalist thinks of this? That is not part of their job. The journalist is not a lawyer. They're not a legal analyst. They don't have to, care about the legal ramifications of it. They need to just report on the information, get the information, then have the legal analyst analyze it. So if they're throwing a fit about her being hired as a legal analyst, there's got to be some sort of ulterior motive, because the journalist shouldn't care about that if they're doing good, impartial reporting. The journalists reportedly fear that Vasquez hiring by NBC discounts NBC's previous reporting on the case. Well, it should. If they were taking her side, they were actively lying or the true sources of misinformation. One NBC staffer stated, or even if they weren't, actually take that back, even if they weren't, if she's a good lawyer, then what's it matter? That's all that should matter, right? Aren't you always talking about the best person for the job? Maybe. Vasquez is just the best person for the job, and just because she represented someone you don't like in court doesn't alter her qualifications as a banger lawyer. For her to end up in this branding as an NBC news analyst, it puts her in league with the journalists of this network, and that's unfortunate. Did NBC really have to hire Vasquez? According to The Hollywood Reporter, multiple news organizations were vying for Vasquez before NBC proved the winner. It must have been quite the lucrative deal they inked with her, because at the same time reports arose that they laid off roughly 75 employees. It was largely staff members and off-air employees, such as tech producers and journalists, who faced the brunt of the layoffs, while on-air talent remained safe. Despite the discontent of NBC's journalists, Vasquez had already made her first appearance on the show and started off by talking about the Idaho University murders. A very, very topical and important story. So where's the criticism there, if you're going to have any? Where is your woke, ideological, agenda-driven bias there? Because this is a very important story. Who cares who's delivering it? Let's see how you respond to that. When asked about how social media could impact the case, she replied that it could be useful but also damaging when it results in people making false claims. Completely factual statement so far as I can tell. Since the Depp vs. Heard case, Vasquez has never once addressed the widespread misinformation on social media. Because there wasn't widespread misinformation. I cannot believe there is a self-respecting, well, I assume self-respecting, media outlet still shilling for Amber Heard after all this time. It is truly baffling. Never once have I seen a more confusing scenario, and I have watched Roger Corman films. The smear campaign of Amber Heard and the harassment and bullying of witnesses, journalists, and anyone else who didn't openly support Depp. She has simply been riding the waves of fame that came with social media's questionable influence and now the face of NBC. Ultimately, hiring someone for social media clout while disregarding and laying off their own staff doesn't seem like a smart choice, especially when that woman attained her fame for sucking up to a powerful man and laughing at the testimony of an alleged victim of abuse. Alrighty, I got a few last things to say and then we'll be done with this. Hiring someone for social media clout while disregarding and laying off their own staff doesn't seem like a smart choice. Then you don't know how business works, because that's absolutely a smart choice. If you could pay one individual and make a whole lot more money than if you're paying several individuals that aren't just doing anything that generates revenue, it is a brilliant choice. You might not like the choice, but it is a smart choice. So you either are retarded and don't understand how economics works, or you just don't care because you're trying to push an agenda. That is insane. And then you say, especially when the woman attained her fame for sucking up to a powerful man and laughing at the testimony of an alleged abuse of a victim. All the evidence pointed towards the opposite. That was the point, that she was the abuser, not the abusee. Do you realize how many people changed their position purely on evidence coming out? Not misinformation, evidence. That's what individuals are swayed by. Is that not right, bird brain? Evidence. Look, I get it. You don't like Johnny Depp. You don't like powerful white men because of the patriarchy. But do you have to drag down a powerful woman who has worked in what you consider the patriarchy to get to the top just to bring your point home? Or is she the enemy now too just because of who she's associated with? You tell me that, Mary Sue. You are a garbage reporting outlet. But that's all I've got for this one. I'm just going to go ahead and call it here because I don't have anything to say. I think we got it all out during that. Other than please do like and subscribe. The subscription would mean the world to me. I cover all manner of topics, including Magic the Gathering, things like this, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, video games. There's some sort of news I'm sure you'll like. But until next time, this has been Words of Paradise.